This is what $100 million looks like. 100 million $1 bills, look at this. Okay, but watch this. This is what $100 billion looks like. Whoa, that's $100 billion. It's like 19 people on Earth that have this much money. Oh, and by the way, one of these guys just bought a house right up the road here in Washington, D.C. Remember when we did the piles of cash? This is what $100,000 looked like when we did that visualization. So yeah, we're in a whole different echelon now. I want to show you the lifestyles of people who are worth this much money versus this much money. So we've been talking to experts, interviewing people who work with the ultra wealthy to construct real world scenarios of what these people's lives look like, what kind of influence they have in society, to understand what and who they can buy.
Oh, and by the way, we're launching a media company. It's called New Press. It's going to be very different than anything you've ever seen. It's going to be about transparency, letting you have insight into our journalistic process and contribute to it. There's already a lot of people on the wait list. If you want to be one of them, go to newpress.com, sign up. You'll be the first to know when it launches and what we're up to. You can even help us design it. That's newpress.com. Okay, that's all.
So first up, let's start with $100 million. My name is Scott. I started a candy company and I grew it over many years, and I eventually sold it to a big giant candy corporation. And because I started the company, I own most of it, and so I got a huge payout from this sale. Between that and a bunch of other investments over the years, I now have a net worth of $100 million. Wow, that's a big number. My primary residence is New York City, where 818 other centimillionaires live. Centimillionaires, it's like 100 millionaires. I'll show you my New York City house in just a second. But first, let's talk about my fortune and how I can spend it. Now, I can't actually spend my fortune right now because all of it is in the stock market. The upside to that is that it grows and grows. My portfolio grows at 10% every year. So what if I just sell this $10 million return I got this year? This could fund some of my lifestyle. Ugh, but look at all these taxes. All in all, it's like 37% of that $10 million. I guess it still leaves me with 6.3 million bucks to spend. And look, I didn't even have to touch my portfolio. I'm still worth $100 million. Wait, is this video just tax calculations? No. Let's go find a house. My budget for a house is anywhere between $8 and $15 million, which sources told us is common at this level. And even though I live in one of the most expensive and crowded cities on Earth, with my budget, I can find a pretty sick house, I think. Okay, let's look around. Boy, there's some nice options here. How about this one? $8.5 million. This nice apartment in Midtown Manhattan. The listing tells me that this is the epitome of refined living, a superior pre-war white glove cooperative. What does that mean? 4 bedrooms, 4 bath, this sun-kissed airy. This sun-kissed airy is one of the crown jewels of the Tony Enclave. What is it? Am I reading like a different language? What is the Tony Enclave? I don't know what any of those words mean, sorry. But I do know that it has a semi-private elevator and is the perfect setting for alfresco entertaining. And me, 100 millionaire, I am super into alfresco entertaining. I mean, this is looking like a pretty great house. It's got this super romantic painting above the mantle. And in addition to my real library, I also get a bathroom that kind of looks like one. By the way, this is only my primary residence. It's not my only home. I've got a couple vacation homes around the country and the world. This one in Miami, which is increasingly a playground for the ultra rich, and this one in the south of France. And both of these have full-time housekeepers. Let's talk about my vacations. I visit these houses a couple times a year, but for my other vacations, I'll maybe go to the Hamptons because I love to watch polo. There's this great polo match in July, and I buy a VIP ticket that will cost me only $3,500. Or lately I've been getting into F1, and so maybe I'll go to the race in Monaco. I'll stay at this Hotel Heritage, oh no, Hermitage. I'll stay at the Hotel Hermitage, Monte Carlo, for just 22,000 euros a night, which is like $25,000 per night. Okay, let's get to the F1 race.
And the Monaco Grand Prix is underway.
Jeez, no one told me I needed to bring my swimsuit to the F1 race. I'm feeling a little overdressed. Food's great, chef. Great view. Let's get to the race. I'm planning on watching the F1 race from a private yacht. The ticket was $16,000. And look at the benefits here. I get to walk around in the pit, I get to meet the drivers, and I even get VIP tenders? Oh, not that kind of tender. Just a fancy boat that brings me out to the yacht. Anyway, something's bothering me. Remember when I showed you I could sell off the returns that I made this year from my stocks and still come out with millions of dollars of cash to spend? Well, I didn't really like having to sell off all those returns and then have to pay like over 30% in taxes. Me and everyone else you'll see in this video don't like to sell our portfolio, our assets, to get cash, because that triggers all of these taxes. It gives us less power in the companies we own. Instead, we like to get cash through a bunch of other ways, using our vast fortune. My favorite trick is to go to the bank and to ask for a loan. Wait, what? I'm a super rich guy. Why do I need a loan? Well, let me show you. The bank will loan me a lot of money if I put my huge investment portfolio up for collateral, meaning they can come after it if I don't pay the loan back, or if I default or something. Okay, how much can I get in a loan? Well, according to the bank UBS, I could borrow up to 85% of the value of my investment portfolio, which remember is $100 million. So I could potentially get a loan for $85 million. Another bank, Merrill Lynch, says that they will give at least 50% of the value of your portfolio. But regardless, we're talking tens of millions of dollars that I can borrow and spend. And guess what? I pay zero taxes on this money because it's not income, it's technically debt. Okay, wait, but it's a loan. So I'm accruing interest, right? This isn't free money. I'm gonna have to pay it back someday and likely have to pay it back with post-tax money. So it's not free money. What's the deal here? Why am I doing this? Well, according to a lot of good reporting from the Wall Street Journal, people making $100 million or more can get quoted on an interest rate as low as 0.87%. Super low. In reality, today, under these conditions and with my net worth, let's just be really conservative and say that my interest rate on the loan is more like 5.9%. It's a lot higher than 1%. But watch what happens. This allows me to not have to touch my investment portfolio. I don't have to take out that $10 million of stocks and pay a bunch of taxes. And that is growing at 10% a year. Way more than the interest on this loan. Now watch what happens over time. This is the value of that $10 million left in my portfolio, and this is how much I owe on the loan I took out. That's a nice looking graph. My wealth is growing way faster than the interest on my loan is accruing. So this tax-free debt thing is awesome, and it's one way that I will turn my net worth into spendable cash without having to sell off any of my stocks in my portfolio. Okay, no more tax math for now. I want to go buy some more stuff. It's time to talk about private jets and yachts. Sadly, I can't afford the private jet that I want. Womp womp. But this doesn't mean I don't fly private. These days, I can easily just book a jet like this one. It can take me from New York to Miami, and it only costs me $15,000. I can get from LA to Australia for $200,000 on this private jet. $200,000 seems like a lot, but let's compare it to the median net worth of a US household, which is $192,000. The median net worth of a household, not a person, a household. Spending $200,000 on this flight to Australia feels the same for me as a median household spending $384 for this ticket. Pretty doable for a flight to Australia. Now I can get a better deal on these private flights if I pre-purchase a jet card like this. I fill it up with prepaid private jet hours. Prices range from $5,000 to $7,000 per hour for a small private jet and up to $20,000 an hour for a bigger, longer range jet. Maybe someday I'll own my own private jet, but my budget of $10 million doesn't really get me the fancy one that I want. I'll opt to charter for now. What I can afford is a fairly large staff to run my life. I have 18 full-time staff members, and that's a real number of staff for people of this net worth from a Morgan Stanley report. I've got a personal driver, I've got a shopper, I've got a butler, a chef, a laundry person. I'm super into security, so I've got a head of security and a bunch of security guards. I have a personal handler who sets up all the logistics of stuff I want to do. Like I want to go yacht shopping this weekend. They're handling all of it. Oh, that's him now. Hey, Brad. Yeah, for the yacht show this weekend, can you make sure I get some VIP tenders? No, the real, the chicken ones. Oh, and I almost forgot, my most important staff members are the financial and legal experts who find the most clever ways to reduce how much taxes I have to pay. Which, my wealth manager, Jeff, keeps selling off all my stocks at a loss, and we're like losing money. Jeff, what are you doing back there?
Don't worry, Scott. This is called a wash sale and I know what I'm doing. You get back to yacht shopping.
Loss harvesting, wash sale. I don't understand it all. Jeff does though. Anyway, back to yacht shopping. Wow, look at these yachts. I'm actually sad to discover that I'm on the lower end of ultra wealth. So my yacht is actually not that fancy. It's not a super yacht, that's for sure. It looks more like this. It costs a little over $1 million. I might splurge and get this guy. Costs more like $6 million, but this is still pretty entry level. Because at this point, yes, I've got loads of money. I can buy and travel and live how I want. But what separates me from the big dogs who we're about to see is yachts and private jets, but also influence in society. I do some donating. I donate a bunch of money to politics. I gave $900,000 to a PAC that supports the candidates that I hope will win. I also belong to the invite-only Aman Club, which I had to pay a $200,000 initiation fee for. My membership fee is $15,000 a year, and I get to rub shoulders with people way richer than me, like Bill Gates, and even the Kardashians show up every once in a while. But this isn't real influence. I'm kind of paying for access. It's nothing like we're gonna see once we cross the $1 billion mark.
Hey, since we're talking about money, can we take a minute to make sure that this video makes money so that our team can continue to work and our company can keep growing so we can keep making videos? That's why we have sponsors. Thank you, NordVPN, for sponsoring today's video. NordVPN used to just be a VPN where you can connect to the internet via another country, which allows you to do a bunch of things that I've talked about a bunch on the channel, so you know that by now. But these days, NordVPN is also a threat protection tool. I've got Threat Protection Pro turned on. It's constantly monitoring as I'm using the internet, looking for phishing links, malware, fake web shops. It even scans my downloads for threats. Nord also has a dark web monitor. Sounds kind of complicated, but all that does is just monitor the dark web to see if your credentials are showing up on sketchy websites, like hacker forums and things like that, so you can act fast to get ahead of it. And all of this works without you even having to be connected to the VPN site, like one of Nord's servers. You don't even have to be connected to that to use these threat protection tools. NordVPN is a very affordable way to stay safe while you're on the internet. And if you use the link in my description, which is nordvpn.com/JohnnyHarris, you'll get in on this huge Black Friday discount. When you get the 2-year plan, you get an extra 4 months. Again, that's nordvpn.com/JohnnyHarris. The link's in the description. Thank you, NordVPN, for sponsoring today's video. And with that, let's dive back into the lifestyles of the ultra rich.
All right, now let's 10x this and get to $1 billion. Forbes says that there's about 3,000 people on Earth with this kind of money. Hi, my name is Javier. I was a moderately wealthy guy for a while, but I randomly wrote a $200,000 check to a couple of young guys in Silicon Valley who had a startup idea. They gave me 4% equity in their company, and then their company blew up and is now worth $80 billion. After some dilution, my $200,000 check is now worth $1 billion. That's my net worth. So how do I get liquid cash to spend from my vast fortune? Well, I don't want to sell any of my stake in the tech company I invested in because I have voting rights. I can control how it is. In fact, like Scott, I don't want to sell any of my portfolio for cash. Instead, I will generate money other ways. I'll go back to the old debt trick that we saw with Scott. Even if I get a loan that's 2% of my vast portfolio, I'm looking at $20 million of tax-free cash, all without having to touch my portfolio, which continues to grow in the market at 10% a year. That $20 million that I didn't have to take out of my portfolio is just in the market, is growing nice and fast. And look, after 5 years, my portfolio has grown way more than the interest on this loan. I can easily pay back the loan right now and still have extra to spare. Okay, so let's talk houses. Where do I live? Of course, New York City, where there's more billionaires than anywhere else in the world. I live up on the Upper East Side. Look at this beautiful home. 6 bedrooms, 17,000 square feet Manhattan apartment. It cost me $57.5 million. This was actually 2 huge multi-million-dollar houses that they combined into one. just cuz. It's got a pool with my favorite inspirational quotes on the wall, a basketball court on the roof, but this is not my only home. It is one of 7 that I own, including my home in Aspen, in Lake Garda, Dubai, St. Bart's, and of course, downtown Paris. And look, I finally own a private jet. Yes! No more chartering or prepaid flight cards. I've got my own private jet and it is sick. Look at this thing. Cost me $75 million and I have to pay $3 million a year just to maintain it. Like I have to pay $135,000 just to store it in a hangar. I pay $600,000 a year on fuel and $45,000 just on like basic maintenance. Oh, and I have a full-time pilot and crew. I spend over $700,000 just to keep them retained as my full-time flight attendants. And I finally can buy a respectable yacht. Like, look at this one. It's 131 feet long. It's got a pool and a hot tub on the deck. It can carry 11 guests and 9 crew members. And like my PJ, I have to pay a full-time crew to run this thing year-round, even though I only use it a few times a year. My vacations look pretty similar to Scott's. A lot of expensive VIP access, but just a little more elevated. Like I paid $3 million to watch the Super Bowl in this suite with Taylor Swift and a bunch of other rich people. The difference between me and Scott is I get invited to stuff that I don't even have to pay for because we're kind of all a little bit post money at this point. Like the Monaco Yacht Show, they have an exclusive opening day. Scott was paying $2,200 for a ticket, but I'm one of the 200 people that they just invited to the VIP experience. And in fact, where Scott's vacations were about lavish, opulent hotels and experiences, I have kind of a different vibe. I care mostly about privacy and security. In fact, the places I stay look a lot more like this from the street. Unassuming, not drawing any attention. But behind these walls, I've got everything I need for my vacation. My security team flew in a few days earlier to secure the property, and then I arrive with my butler, my chef, even my personal doctor is on site. I've got a dog walker who I pay to just hang out with my dog, and of course my luxury travel coordinator who just zipped into town to connect with the brands she's been communicating with. They're planning to come to my villa to set up my own personal store in one of the mini bedrooms, so that I can browse the latest fashion without leaving my villa. By the way, that's a real example from our reporting. A family who did this during one of their vacations and ended up spending $1.5 million on their little in-home designer store during their vacation. In fact, I want to super clarify that all of these examples are based on real reporting, real examples from our interviews with people who work with the ultra rich. Many of them don't want to appear and be quoted in this video, but we're grateful that they let us in on some of these lifestyle details of how people live and travel at this wealth level. Anyway, I'm Javier, and at this point, it's hard to know what to spend my money on that Scott can't. Like, we can both buy a $91,000 shirt, which sales tax alone on this puppy is like $8 grand. $9 million painting. There's a few things that are out of reach for Scott that I can buy, maybe like this nearly $3 million bottle of whiskey. What I can do at this level is pay for hyper exclusive experiences, like paying my favorite band, the Eagles, to fly in and play me a show. I'll pay millions of dollars for this, and in fact, they've negotiated only playing Hotel California one time, but it was totally worth it. And yes, that $6 million private concert is a real example too. Anyway, let's go back to security, because now that I'm a billionaire, I'm a little more well-known, and my security team has grown. But I'm also starting to get a little more paranoid, thinking about how I'm planning for something apocalyptic. We rich people think about this a lot. What if we lose it all? My vast wealth is in the market, in the economy. And if order breaks down, it could be worth nothing. So I'm going to invest in some backup plans. A bunch of land in upstate New York. And in fact, I'm even working on a bunker. I love bunkers. This thing's got food storage, a decontamination shower, a high-tech air filtration system, 4 bedrooms, a hair salon, a shooting range. Listen, I'm not a prepper, but you know, just in case, and I've got the money to do it, why wouldn't I? I'm worth $1 billion, so at this point I kind of have an army of tax professionals optimizing my wealth so I can pay as few taxes as possible. And Congress just passed some legislation that's really helping me out on this. At this level, I start to get weird and creative with my money. Maybe I'll buy a hotel chain, or maybe I'll invest in bubbles. No, not those kind of bubbles. Bubbles is the name of my thoroughbred horse that I bought for $3 million. I paid millions of dollars, and then I had to, of course, build a home and a bunch of stables for Bubbles, and I had to like get a trainer and feed and care and medical attention. It's a lot of money, but it's a business expense. And Bubbles is a depreciating asset on my balance sheet. I'm supposed to try to make a profit off of Bubbles, but really I'm doing it because on race day, I love showing up to watch him race. Get to hang out with my friends, spend some time at the track, throw a big party, and watch Bubbles race. Come on, boy, come on. Bubbles. Oh, he lost again. And yes, I'm losing a lot of money on Bubbles, but honestly, I'm not that stressed because this is more of a hobby, and all of these losses I can write off to lower my tax bill. I'm actually doing this same kind of hobby thing on a much bigger scale. I bought an NBA team. I'm able to write these players off as depreciating assets, even though the team is growing and making money. All of this helps my tax rate be lower than the players who play for me, and even lower than the guy serving beer in the stands. ProPublica did a great analysis on that, by the way. But yeah, anyway, all of this is legal. Like, I'm not breaking any rules. And honestly, it's really fun. And look, I have the best seats in the house. Oh, and by the way, I still pay a lot of taxes. My businesses pay corporate taxes and income taxes and payroll taxes and property taxes and sales taxes. I contribute massively in dollar terms, and my businesses generate huge amounts of tax revenue and jobs, and I took a risk in building my wealth. And when I sell or die, the government takes another giant cut. I'm paying plenty. And in fact, I'm paying so much that I'm gonna use some of my influence to try to change that. I've got my eye on a Senate candidate. I've contributed $20 million to his campaign to get him reelected, and he won. Yes! It's a few months later, and Congress is working on a bill. It could have big ramifications for my business and therefore my net worth. And so I'm gonna call in my favor to the senator who I donated so much money to help reelect. I need him to insert 8 words into this massive bill to allow my business to qualify for a huge deduction. He does it. Last second, and I just saved hundreds of millions of dollars in taxes. 20 million bucks to get this guy elected in exchange for hundreds of millions of dollars in savings? That sounds like a good investment. Thanks, Congress. My financial advisors have been telling me that it's time for me to not just be a rich person, but to become a philanthropist, to give away my money and to save some taxes in the process. How about, let's see, what can I give away? Well, I've got this really nice art collection. An appraiser said that it was worth $130 million. I'm gonna donate this, but I'm not gonna donate it to like a public gallery. I'm gonna donate it to my own family's private nonprofit foundation. And as long as I make this art accessible to the public, I can write off the $130 million from my taxes over several years. Okay, so I have to make all this art accessible to get the tax write-off. What counts as accessible? Luckily, the IRS isn't super specific, so I've decided to open up the art room to the public, but just in kind of random 2-hour slots that you need a lottery to get an access to. There'll be only guided tours on random Wednesdays, no regular hours, no self-guided tours. That's accessible, right? I'm taking the tax write-off. That work, guys?
Nice approach.
Yes. And yes, that is a real example of philanthropy really being vanity projects with no public benefit. Thanks again to ProPublica for their great reporting on it. Okay, moving on. Now, there are billionaires who give to real causes that benefit real people, who give away a large amount of their fortune to actually change the world for the better. But it's also very common for billionaires to use foundations and philanthropy as tax shelters and vanity projects. And the IRS doesn't really come down on these people very often. Oh, I just got an email saying I'm going to Switzerland. Because I donated to the presidential campaign, the president is assigning me to be the ambassador to Switzerland. And I know the president said that he wouldn't be appointing his donors to these types of roles, but here I am. Seems like a lot of us donors are getting appointed. This is great. Let's get the jet ready to go to Switzerland. So you can see that my fortune at this point buys me anything I want, but it's actually starting to be more and more about buying influence in society and politics. But this is just the beginning. Let's see what happens when we 100x this. Okay, things are about to get kind of nuts because we're about to 100x this pile. To go from 1 billion to $100 billion.
There's less than 20 people who have this much net worth or more. They're almost all Americans who started technology companies. Elon Musk, the world's richest man, has anywhere from 4 to 5 times this much, depending on the day. And at this point, there's no way I can convince you how much money this is. Like, you would have to combine the incomes of over 7.5 million Americans toiling away, earning the median salary of $63,000 a year. 7.5 million people earning the amount of money controlled by one guy.
Hi, my name is Bradley. I founded a technology company decades ago, and it is now one of the most valuable companies on earth. I still run it actively, and most of my $100 billion fortune is in the form of a huge amount of stock in this company. How do I even think about where to live? I could go the direction of Indian billionaire Mukesh Ambani and build my own personal 27-story skyscraper, complete with a hanging garden and a 6-floor garage where I can store 168 cars. Or I could collect a portfolio of trophy homes all over the world.
I'll buy this one in Florida for $173 million.
It's got 33 bedrooms and 39 bathrooms. That is a lot of toilets. I'll buy a spot in London, but I'll make sure to buy all the properties around it, so I've got a lot of privacy. That one cost me $202 million. I'll grab a bunch of property along this coastline in Malibu. I'll buy this private golf course next to my 19,000 square foot mansion, even though I don't really play golf. And I'll even pay $86 million for a Zen temple in Japan, because I'm super into Japan. Let's add to the list buying this entire island of Lanai, Hawaii. All in all, my big portfolio of houses around the world adds up to about $2 billion worth of homes. But if I'm like Larry Ellison, whose homes all of those I just mentioned are, this isn't even 1% of my net worth. But I don't want to just buy homes. Maybe I want to buy a social media company. I'm really into influence right now, and influencing the media is a great way to influence society. And this is where I can take the loan thing that we talked about earlier to a whole new level. Yes, I could sell a bunch of my stock to get cash to buy the social media company. Or I can do what Elon Musk did and take out a giant loan. Billions of dollars that I don't have to pay taxes on, that is based on my vast fortune. Musk was about to take out a loan of $12.5 billion, but then ended up taking about half that to buy Twitter. And this is what's wild, is the loan thing, at this level, I can plan to just do this forever. I never have to pay off these loans. I never have to sell off any of my stock. I could keep paying down the interest so it doesn't compound, but even if I don't, my fortune grows way faster than this debt accrues. And the real benefit of this happens when I get close to the end of my life. It's been decades. I have all these loans. They've grown, accrued interest. My fortune has grown way faster. And at the end of my life, I could sell a bunch of my portfolio, get a bunch of cash, and pay off all my loans before I die, so I don't leave my children saddled with all my loans. But I don't want to do that, because I would have to pay a huge amount of taxes if I did. And if you haven't noticed, I don't like taxes. My goal now, as I get close to the end of my life, is to set my family up to inherit my vast fortune in the most advantageous way possible. So I max out the gifting exemption. There's like $14 million I can do there, but that's like a drop in the bucket. I'll set up some trusts that technically remove control of my wealth and pays out a certain amount to the named beneficiaries, like my children and grandchildren, over a period of time, potentially forever. But watch this. My portfolio is a vast fortune that is mostly loaded with unrealized gains, meaning this is all money that has grown in the market. I haven't paid taxes on it yet because I haven't taken it out. The moment I take it out, I have to pay taxes. But what I can do is when I die, I can give this giant fortune to my daughter, let's say. And the moment I give it to her, boom, the clock resets. She inherits that fortune, and suddenly it's as if she has zero gains, meaning she could sell this entire portfolio on day one and pay no taxes. Those unrealized, untaxed gains disappear, never to be taxed. And yes, there is a big estate tax that I have to pay when I die, but my army of wealth managers have figured out a way to buy an insurance policy that will pay that tax for me. Anyway, I'm not dead yet. Let's talk about yachts. Because at this point, at $100 billion, I can get the top of the line. Look at this 600-foot long, $600 million yacht. This thing has a crew of 80 people. It can cross the Atlantic without refueling. It's got a pool, a helipad, a movie theater, a golf training room, because I gotta practice my swing when I'm out in the Atlantic. I pay my crew super well. Many of my crew stay on board my yacht for years. Oh, and did I mention that it's not just the yacht? I also have this little shadow barge that follows my yacht around when we're out to sea. It carries extra fuel so we can be out on the water longer. It also keeps some of my car collection. Oh, what's that? You're burning to hear about my car collection? I have 2,000 cars. This giant collection is worth around $200 million. It's kind of my hobby. Another real example from this billionaire. And just when I thought I had the top of the line, there's something else I got my eye on. This super yacht airship crossover that's straight out of Star Trek. I want this thing. Especially because the article says that, quote, crossovers can be oodles of fun when done right. I want oodles of fun. My super yacht's starting to look boring because I have to stick to the sea. But with this crossover, I can go anywhere because it literally turns into a blimp and goes onto land, and it costs about $1 billion. And yes, it's got all the bells and whistles, a pool, a sauna, a gym, a helipad, tenders, and a nice big garage for my cars. And yeah, we gotta talk about my private jet. Oh, sorry, private jets. I have 3 of them and they're all huge. My favorite one is this one. This is the ACJ 350. It's got a cabin that's 167 feet long. Over 3,000 square feet of floor space on this sucker. I bought this thing for $360 million. And I spent another $100 million just to renovate the interior because I wanted a spa on board. I mean, totally worth it, right? Oh, and on a more grave note, I had to make a deal with my pilot that in case of the apocalypse, which I think about a lot, I'll let him and his family come with me to my compound. Like if we have to escape, I need to guarantee that I have a pilot to fly me away in case like the mob comes knocking. Where will I fly? Oh, I've got some options. I've got bunkers all over the place. Some of them have airstrips, so I can just fly right to them. My favorite one is in New Zealand, where a lot of us ultra wealthy are burying bunkers. This thing is buried underground. It's got a pantry, a gun room, a surgery station. This thing only cost me $8 million to build. But that's not including the couple $1,000,000 I had to invest in New Zealand for several years to qualify for an investor visa, so they'll like let me into their airspace. My other bunkers include huge pieces of land in Hawaii, where I have a huge full-time staff, including a person who raises my Wagyu cattle, just like my buddy Mark Z. He's got one too. We love Wagyu and hydrofoils. When I say and hydrofoils, cut to him on the hydrofoil out in the... We got this, Mark. Okay, but I'm not all doom and gloom apocalyptic. It's just a backup plan. I have hobbies too, but my hobbies have turned into kind of reality bending projects. Like, I want to go to space.
I feel super connected to love.
I want to create my own libertarian nation in the South Pacific. I've got the money to do it. I have like more money than a lot of nations. Or I could throw my money at wild, innovative ideas, like making human brains talk to computers or finding ways for humans to live forever. My security team is now huge, dozens and dozens of professionals, many of them former Navy SEALs. And it's hitting me that at this level, I have so much money, I can actually make a huge impact in the world. I have the ability to give away over $19 billion of my wealth, no strings attached, to help change the lives of underrepresented people like Jeff Bezos' ex-wife did. I could put billions of dollars into eradicating infectious diseases and focusing on improving maternal and child health funding like Bill and Melinda Gates have done. It's a lot of power that I have to affect what public health initiatives get done. Or I could pour my philanthropic money into foundations that get me tax benefits and serve my own ventures and are completely controlled by me and my family. I could do either. And my level of influence is not just in the philanthropic causes I can fund. I also rub shoulders with the most influential decision makers in the world. Did I mention that as a part of my real estate portfolio, I've got this huge swath of beach in Florida where I've created an enclave for the rich. It's right next to the president's Florida residence, and it's where I make sure that I rub shoulders with the right people. This election cycle, I'm going to spend almost $300 million on getting my favorite candidate elected to be president. That seems like a lot. Is that legal? Actually, yes. Look, I have a front row seat to the inauguration, and the president is giving me the job I've always wanted, which is taking a chainsaw to the federal government.
This is the chainsaw for bureaucracy.
Chainsaw!
Wow, well that was quite the journey. If there's one thing I've learned on my journey from 100 million to $100 billion, it's that wealth begets more wealth. That's why I did all those like tax calculations and debt to show you that when you have wealth and ownership of assets in a capitalistic system, you become impervious. You can build a fortress of wealth that just keeps growing. And then once you have that fortress, it allows you to influence government and policy and media that then serves your interests to get more wealth. All while opportunities, wages, and resources stagnate for the majority. This isn't a broken system. This is a system working exactly how it was designed by policy choices and decisions. And it might strike you as unfair. I think it is, but I also think it's really dangerous. It's exactly the type of concentration that creates a politics of grievance and anger and resentment and hopelessness, all so that a few people can have access to their fancy boats and exclusive parties.